Hello, once again. I'm Doc Rotten, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-hosts on the net, and we are reviewing Separation, which is out in theaters now. Now in theaters. Go see it. All right, joining me tonight is lead news writer. Lead news writer. How do you like that? That's actually right.
That's
and it.
impressive.
Yes, at Gruesome Magazine, Dave Dreher.
Hello, gentlemen.
I don't know what to do. All right, also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. I actually got to see a movie in the theater, so I wasn't so separated from social things. See what I did there?
Let's see it. I saw it right there. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm all vaccinated as well, and I'm planning on starting to head back to the theater this weekend. I've got to pick something out to watch, and of course, the following weekend is Spiral, so I'm going to go see that for sure.
Yeah, there was a big old trailer before this film was Spiral.
Oh my God, trailers! I haven't seen like a string of trailers before a movie in forever. Oh my God,
it's nice, especially when you're at the Alamo Raleigh.
Yeah, I'm a draft ass. Well, I'm happy that you got to see it in the theaters actually. So it's nice. All right, what film are we going to talk about? We're talking about Separation. We're going to give our initial reaction, then we're going to talk about the film for a little bit. In our initial reaction, we won't get into spoilers. When we talk about it, we might drop some spoilers. We won't try to be all spoiler, but you might get some spoilers. There's a little warning in the text. And also, we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. So let's take a look at the details here. Separation from Open Road, available in theaters April 30th, 2021. The synopsis is: a young girl finds solace in her artist father and the ghost of her dead mother. Directed by William Brent Bell. There's a familiar name for many people into the horror fans. They might recognize that. We'll get into that a little bit. Written by Nick Amadeus and Josh Braun. The cast includes Madeline, Brewer, Rupert Friend, Brian Cox, Mamie Comer, who looks just like her mother, Chelsea Debo, Violet McGraw, Eric T. Miller, Troy James, and Simon Quarterman. So, and tagline is "It Won't Let Go." It's actually a pretty good cast. But what we need to find out, is it a pretty good movie? All right, let's do that. Dave, sir, you were first. What was your first impression of Separation?
It's not a bad movie, but it's not a good movie. it's definitely a movie though. I'm kind of got it. I found the little girl. Which one of those names is the little girl in the movie?
Her name is Chelsea Debo, I think. Let me. Or is it Violet
McGraw?
Violet McGraw. Sorry. Yes.
I found her to be quite good. I thought she was pretty spot on. I bought into her whole, the whole thing going on with her mother and father and all that. They're kind of, I feel purposely vague at the beginning of this. You don't know if it's her having a supernatural ability or, what's going on. They kind of leave it vague for a little bit, which I kind of liked. But I thought the girl really kind of made the movie for me. I really felt for her. As she progressed through these rather extraordinary circumstances. The supposed twist ending I didn't really find too twisty. I think they telegraphed that one, a little bit too early. But again, overall, it held my attention. I watched it all the way through. It's got some rough effects.
I would hope so. I got you watching all the way through.
Sometimes I don't make that cut. It had a real James Wan feel to me at times. Playing with the shadows and like Mr. Wan liked to do. I think somebody is definitely a James Wan fan that was involved in this project somewhere along the line. But I guess overall, I just kind of came out of it with I was entertained. It was okay. Will it be in my top 10? No.
No.
Will it be in my bottom 10? No. It'll just gotta be there.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should note that it's we talked about William Bent Burrell as the director. He did The Boy and The Boy 2. So just to give you an idea, he also did The Devil Inside, if you remember that slightly controversial film back in 2012, and he's doing Orphan First Kill next, which is a prequel to the Orphan film. So interesting, yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Well, with that information in your pocket, Christopher G. Moore, what was your first impression of Separation? Uh-oh.
As he desperately searches for something positive.
I am trying to. I'm trying to be better about not being so negative about things, but sometimes it's very hard. I'll say I do like the creepiness of the supernatural aspects that are based on these dolls that are. I think in the very beginning it talked about there's an artist that designed some of the dolls, which really work and play into that. And I think one of them is like the weirdo with the this is not spoilers because it's in the trailer, but there's this weird like striped thing. Kind of reminds me of the you mentioned the James Wan thing. It kind of reminds me of Conjuring 2, the little twisty guy or whatever. Yeah. But
what was that? What was his name? What the hell was his name? I thought the same thing, but I can't remember.
But I think the actor they got is an actor that they usually put in these things can walk like backwards and stuff. So sometimes they don't necessarily have to create a CGI around some of his movements because it's him actually able to turn his head and stuff. And I think some of that stuff's very creepy. It's almost like a mixture of that from James Wan and that crazy clown guy. What is his name? That cuts the woman in half in that movie. Anyway.
The Terrifier guy.
Terrifier. It's almost like a mixture of the weird rickety man thing and James Wan's thing and the Terrifier, and they mixed them together. And then there's another thing with like the weird, almost like witch face thing. So there are certain moments that are creepy, I guess, but I didn't really find the film to be very scary. I mean, then it sort of like. First of all, you have Rupert Friend, who's basically the Great Value version of Orlando Bloom.
No, my God, that's so true.
Because he looked. I mean, at first I was like, "Did they get Orlando Bloom?" No, it's not Orlando Bloom. It's Orlando Bloom wannabe. But yeah, it's like once the story plays out, and then I hate it when you try to have movies that create these sort of hipster versions of jobs, like a comic book. Like a comic book company that every time they're with them, it made me roll my eyes because like, oh, this is supposed to be play because they're talking about their story of the comic is supposed to play into the movie and stuff. And it's like I'm sure comic book companies are never that sort of cool. And nowadays they're not even making as much money as they used to. So I'm sure they're probably not even inking for real. They're probably digitally doing it. But yeah, I don't know. There's certain elements of it that just didn't work. And then you have this whole sort of like Stranger Things upside down world. And then you have almost like this sort of De Palma twist that you see a million miles away by the end of it. And then a lot of the stuff doesn't even make sense, and then they have like the little stinger thing at the end that, it's like, why did we even go through this? And then it's, and even how the resolution around some of the stuff doesn't even make sense. So it's like, are these things supposed to be an embodiment of this person that dies, or are they these ancient? I mean, none of it makes sense. So I think I kind of disagree with Dave. I didn't understand why anything was happening. And then it became kind of annoying. I mean, I think the little girl is great. I think I think that's probably the strongest character in the whole movie, mainly because of her having to deal with her parents and the issues there, and something that happens, later on, and then just her almost like being honest about it, and her sort of like doing things to sort of like to deal with it, and so I think she did a great job. I mean, hopefully she doesn't get typecast as a little girl around supernatural creepy stuff all the time. But yeah, but overall, I mean, yeah, I just, and then it's like you could sort of see the limitations on the budget with the special effects and stuff. And there's really bad green screens inside of like the subway. And I mean, there's even a death where you see like the fake blood puddle that you could see that it looks like a fake blood puddle in the rain.
Oh no!
And I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if Dave, you noticed that on your small. I saw it in the big theater, so I noticed every little flaw, every little issue, and so things with like the weird other world, dream world thing, you could see issues with that, and then just even bad compositing between stuff they shot and stuff they added in CGI where buildings looked weird. So I don't know. I think because I was kind of so plugged out of the movie in the general, I just started nitpicking every little thing to where it just made me kind of sad because I think there was potential there. And I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's it almost becomes to be a mainstay now to where it's like all this supernatural stuff is happening, and then they always create this sort of real world underlying thing that's going on too that the supernatural stuff is reacting to, and it's almost become a common trope now. So yeah. I don't know. I really wasn't into it. I really didn't. I only cared about maybe the daughter character. Everybody else just seemed to be either lazy like the dad, or just asshole characters like the mom or the grandfather.
Yeah.
And I was just plugged out. I didn't care about what was happening. And then the story just didn't make any sense. And then you have the underlying exposition stuff of the comic book stuff. And so, but anyway, I'll stop talking now.
Yeah. What's interesting is some of the stuff that you're talking about is the stuff I liked. The comic book angle and the storytelling angle, because it, was kind of parallel to what was going on. I really got into, as a one-time comic book artist wannabe, that's what I went to college for and got an art degree, and that's what I wanted to do. I ended up doing something else entirely because, well, I suck. But hey, but so I was really into that, even though it was a little hyper reality. It wasn't what actual comic book offices. It was what what would I, like you said, hipster and cool comic book office would be if there were such a thing right now. It's not happening. But regardless, I really did enjoy that. It might have made me biased toward the movie because I related to that. And I like the idea of the puppets and the way, the different supernatural things would, be kind of extensions of the puppets. And even like the ghost that would have, the jointed fingers and everything. And so there was a lot of the aspects that I was really getting into. And I actually quite enjoyed this. It is a sloppy movie, though. It's messy, but in the end, I connected with it and related to what was happening, and I enjoyed the guy that could do the contortionist and do all the things. I thought the scene where he's chasing him down the hallway and crawling on top of him was quite creepy and intense. And there's a couple scenes in the bedroom. They use the fingers coming out of the darkness thing to great effect. Is it original and throwing anything at us, new and groundbreaking? No, not at all. Not at all. And what's interesting is I did notice the visual differences, with that fantasy world when the ghosty would appear outside the window. But on the small screen, it felt like a choice. that it was something to distinguish as opposed to something to be flawed. So I didn't notice the flaws. I thought it was, it was supposed to be like this warped kind of version of what was out there. So having the things that you were noticing seemed to be what they were trying to do. So maybe the big screen, kind of shows off that it's not quite that. Hard to tell, but I guess in the end, surprisingly, I kind of liked it. I enjoyed it. It's not going to be in my top 10 either. It's not that good. But for me, it's a solid watch, especially when it gets to streaming. I'm pretty sure not many people are quite yet going to the theater. I mean, more and more people are every week. But when this makes it to online, I think people will enjoy this.
Well, I'm glad I got to see it in the theater because I had a friend who I think worked in post-production on it. And so I wanted to support the box office of it because anytime he also worked on the movie Becky, if you guys saw that.
Yes, like that.
Love Becky.
And yeah. And so, I definitely want to support these things, even if I'm not as big a fan of it in the long run. But, yeah, I don't know. There's certain aspects. I mean, and regardless of the style choice, I mean, there's like a slow motion ending thing that was like, oh, kill me now. This does not make any sense. I'm gonna pull my hair out by the end of it. But I don't know. I think what's his name? The grandfather, Brian Cox. I think he was great. Anytime he was on screen, I was loving it, and the Rupert Friend's character of the dad. I mean, there was moments where, I was almost like afraid every time that he was taking care of his daughter because I felt like he was too busy caring about himself or his situation. Like when they're in the park, I'm like, oh my God, the daughter's going to die.
I know.
Because he's not paying attention. I mean, I think the girl needs to go with the grandfather because I don't trust their father at all. Cause he's very at the same time, I was like, maybe it's good I'm not a parent because I feel like I'm that immature in real life. But yeah, I don't know. I think, I think there's those setups for certain scares and stuff. And I mean, the little dolls and stuff, although I'm not sure if I'd be giving my daughter like those little creepy dolls, but maybe that gets her used to seeing creepy stuff all the time.
Maybe, maybe.
But I like the designs of them, the dolls and stuff and the creatures.
I like the Alan to Simon Quarterman character. He the guy from
is that the Uber douche?
Uber douche. Well, he was the more Zen guy.
The great value Leywinell.
Yeah, but he's from
Embrace the dark. Embrace the darkness. Put the darkness on the page.
Yes.
Oh God, my eyes were like rolled out of my head down the theater aisle.
Oh man, see that was my favorite part because he's from Westworld. I don't know if you remember him from Westworld. He was.
All I kept thinking it was
the
like
writer guy.
Leywinell would have done that role better. But
one time he walks in, he goes, "Oh, you're the man with the sad eyes."
Yes,
for God's sake!
But he gives him the the little drug thing to take later on, which is weird because I thought they were going to do something slightly different with it. Yeah, because
they do anything.
Well, they did because but then they did this weird like sped up storytelling afterwards, and I was like, is that real? Is that a dream? What's going on? And it wasn't anything special. So it was really there was odd choices in this movie, I guess is what I'm saying, that really kind of make you go, what are you doing?
Well, it's almost like because you like Dave mentioned a little bit of James Wan, and I was like, I see a little bit of De Palma with the whole reveal at the end. It's like all these different, it's almost like a very sloppy version of all these greatest hits of things that don't really work together.
Yeah.
You
There's
know,
a
it's
lot of influences on the sleeve there.
Yeah. Let's throw the spaghetti with the nerds candies together. You know, it's not going to taste good together separately, but
I don't just try that.
Well, don't.
Yeah. I think the makeup, the way he handled the creatures, the spirits, is very Conjuring-esque. You know, there's very much that flavor to it, which in and of itself has influences, you know, of its own. It's just that James Wan seemed to handle it, you know, with a style and finesse. And it's not that he doesn't reach that pinnacle of it, but he does have enough of the style to William Brent, the director, has the style enough to pull it off. But it feels in this storyline kind of, for us as fans, the kind of fans we are, kind of too PG-13ish to really get us going.
I would agree with that.
Well, I'm not sure if extra gore or anything would help this film.
Well, I don't know if that's what I'm saying, because, you know, some of the Conjuring films and some of the other, you know, they are just on the scares. They get the R rating just because it's so scary.
Well, and I think that's the difference. You know, I mean, and I think that's why Juan has the career that he has, because he is a master at creating atmosphere, building the anticipation, or even throwing your anticipation off, and then jump scare happens. And there's none of, I mean, there's kind of build up a few times. I mean, I will say the part where the creepy twisty man comes out of the attic, and it's a very long scene.
Yeah.
It is very long.
And when the hands kind of come out, because you can
the
really
whole
have
time
no
I'm
idea
like,
what's coming out.
Yeah. How long is this going? I was actually, this is creeping me out. And I was like, that's a very effective. Mm-hmm. But I mean, but then you know, the guy comes back again. It's like, it's the same all. But then the witch sort of looking person with the, you know, the wooden hands is kind of creepy, but everything else really doesn't feel the same as that. I mean, he tries to build that with sort of like the dad having these sort of weird nightmare visions in the middle of nowhere, which I don't understand how that just means. To me, it feels like he's mentally unstable than anything else. I don't know, because I don't know. It's like, I guess the evil's outreaching from the house and that doesn't just stay. So I mean, again, there's really no, other than the little bit of rationale we got from like the comic book guys. Which, by the way, every time the comic book manager would like, he'd be on it's like he was like J.J. Jameson or something. He's like, he was like, every call was like, you know, make sure you put a cape on him, or it was like everything dealing with stuff. It was like, it didn't feel like real phone calls. It just seemed like somebody who doesn't have an understanding of the comic book industry, how they think. So, and I think that's me. Like when I see filmmakers in movies, there's always like this hyper unrealistic version of that. And but yeah, I don't know. There's just like so many things that made my head hurt. I wanted to appreciate it more. I could see what he was going for, but I think he was just trying too much. And then by the end, it really doesn't. Everything's really not tied together well. There's really no little bow on the end of it, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. To where I mean, literally, I was walking by people walking out of the theater, and they were all questioning each other. It's like, but I thought, why are they back in the house again? There's like. There's all these people that had more questions than answers. I didn't hear any kind of positive feedback, people walking out of it. And I was the same way, although I was by myself, so I couldn't be asking the person next to me, like, what was up with that, you know?
Well, I will say I like the motivation for the ghost, even though it's it's based on being, you know, an uber asshole. But I really like, you know, that, you know, the ghost was basically fulfilling, you know, the earthly goals of the human that the ghost was a part of, right? So but then I kept questioning, is it actually this person? Well, I think there was more than one. I think that's the problem is, and you know, that it's, you know, but the main one is one person. Yeah. No, I don't know. I just seem to,
I mean, that's why I don't understand. It's not really clear cut as to what they were trying to go for. Because then it just made that character a whole lot more creepier if she's like that in supernatural form.
Oh my God, really? Yeah. Well, I think we're going to open a Pandora's box if we go down there. We'll end up with us losing ourselves in a black hole of what the heck are they saying? So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene for Separation. But before we do, we want to just thank you for hanging out. If you're still hanging out with us, which if you're hearing this, you are, we appreciate it. And we thank you very much. There's not only this review, but many other reviews on the channel for you to enjoy. Check them out and let us know what you think. If you want to help us out, it's easy and it's free. You hit the subscription button or you share with a friend, and that does wonders. We also like to hear comments. If you want to write some down below, we'd love to hear it. We want to take a quick moment to thank our patrons who, without their support over at Patreon, we would not be able to do not only the Horror News Radio podcast, but Gruesome Magazine, where we do the streaming reviews, Decades of Horror, where we do the retro reviews, and Heroes and Droids, where we pick up slack on all the superheroes action in Disney films. Just kind of get out there into the fantasy world of it, right? But anyway, so thank you guys for helping us do what we love.
Exactly.
Yes. All right, so let's do this. Wrap it up with our final thoughts, our score, and our favorite scene. And Dave, you are up first.
Well, I don't think there's too much else we can really say about this. Anything else that, at least for me, that I would want to discuss would actually be heavy in the spoilers, and I don't think we want to go there with this. And actually, my favorite scene would be a heavy spoiler, so I'm not going to give you my actual favorite scene. I'm going to give you a secondary scene.
Okay.
But I'm giving this a 2.5. It's just middle of the road. It doesn't suck. It's not great. It's okay. I'm kind of like you, Doc. I watched it. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I'm not going to be going and telling people, make sure you see this. But I'm not going to piss all over it either. So it is what it is. But my favorite scene that's really not my favorite scene is there at the towards the conclusion of the film. And again, I don't want to give away too much, but the little girl is chastising Dad and the entity for basically both just sucking. And she kind of reads them the riot act. I thought it was good. Yeah, I mean, she does. She just kind of doesn't, she doesn't hold anything back. She just tells them that neither of them are fit to have her. And I like that. I thought the little girl pulled it off really well. Good emotion, well acted.
She did at that.
Yeah. So that's that.
That's that. All right, Christopher G. Moore, you're up next. Your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene.
Well, Separation is very separated from a well-flowing machine of sorts. I know. Look what I did there. And it has all kinds of weird things that pop out of nowhere, and it seems to be influenced by different types of other projects, but it doesn't really meld together too well. And and it's just very confusing. And then, as much as you like the comic book people, Doc, that stuff made me roll my eyes so much. It just annoyed me. And and it's like, normally I'd like seeing artistic people in films and stuff, but something about it just seemed kind of off. And it just seemed like it was more of a choice to, like, we're going to use this to sort of, like, throw exposition as to why the supernatural things are happening, utilizing that. And it was just like a little bit too on the nose, to where it seemed more of a script choice than an actual needed choice. I think you could still have the artistic part of it, but yeah, I don't know. It just, like, so many different things that didn't work on this, and I could see what they were going for, but it didn't really work for me. And that's when I started being heavily critical of other things, because I was so, like, tuned out of everything that was happening. So yeah, I'm not really, I'm not really a big fan of this film.
It's fair. If it doesn't
so I will give it a 2 out of 5.
Okay.
I'm and I'm being nice.
a generous 2. All right.
I'll give it a generous 2 out of 5.
Yeah, I mean, you got to admit that once you check out of a film, because of your reaction to it, it's hard to get pulled back in.
It's hard, and as a filmmaker, that makes me the worst critic for such things.
And we see so many too. It's really easy to pick things out.
And quickly, my favorite scene is the guy crawling out of the attic door.
Oh yeah,
towards, the Rupert. Non-Orlando Bloom crawling towards him.
The Bloom wannabe. All right, that's fine. That's fair. All right, so I enjoyed it. I fell for all the tropes, and I'm that guy. Yes, I admit I'm biased, because of personal interest. That the main character kind of I related to his personal drama. I mean, yeah, he's a slacker, and that. But I will say that he does get an arc. It's a very slight arc, but he does get an arc that he grows
up.
He does. So there is a maturity that happens. It's not necessarily remarkable or make for a great movie going experience, but it is there. I think it's a flawed film. It's messy. But I liked it. I liked the nature of the supernatural elements of it. I liked the reveal of the supernatural. I don't know if I liked the obvious reveal on the reality side, although it, sure, why not? Go for it. It didn't like sink the film, but it didn't, I don't know. I'm going to shut up about it because I'll spoil it if I'm not careful. But so in the end, I actually liked it. I feel like I liked it slightly better than you guys. I'm giving it a 3, which doesn't necessarily put it in contention for best of, but it is far away from the worst of. It's not going to be in the bottom. I feel like Christopher, it still might actually end up in your bottom for this year. It's hard to tell.
We'll see. There's probably going to be a lot of
it's pretty close.
Shittier stuff that'll come out this year.
Yeah, what am I supposed to say to that?
I'm being very optimistic.
No, there won't be any more shitty stuff this year.
There will be more shitty stuff. I guarantee there will be a lot of shitty stuff that'll come out. Am I wrong? It's a weird way to be optimistic, but I'm just saying.
Hey, this is all right. There's going to be shittier stuff coming out this year.
That's my form of optimism right there. There's always shittier stuff. Right?
But anyway, I'll just end mine with saying that when it hits the streaming, if you don't want to go to the theaters, hits streaming, it's fine. You'll enjoy it. It's a perfect Shudder experience, if you will. My favorite scene. Okay, so you're probably going to hate me for this, Christopher, but there's a scene when the spirit is outside the window, and it's got the trees and all that stuff that you were complaining about, which I understand. I thought it was a choice, so it didn't bother me. But if it isn't a choice, it's awful. You know what I mean?
Well, there's a choice, and then there's a way that you create that choice.
Well, I'll grant you that. But I thought
just turning stuff red is a choice, but how you make that happen is a different thing.
So, but the daughter's like on the ledge, and it's very, and precarious, right? And the ghost reached out and gives her a hug, but you see her pulling away, and it's not going to end well. I just thought that was a pretty interesting way to have those two characters interact at that moment, and yet still be suspenseful. What's going to happen to the young girl? Is she going to fall? Is something else going to happen? Because they use that window throughout the movie, from the very beginning when stuff crashes into it and she falls, and it starts the whole why did you even let her up there, and puts everything in motion, the last straw, if you will.
Well, I will say, I feel like they were trying to be very comic bookish with the look of the dream world or whatever this was.
Fantasy, yeah.
And so maybe that's what they were going for, but but then there was just parts of that where the seams
ripped
away from me.
Yeah, because it felt on the small screen felt kind of watercolorish, the way that what they were trying to represent. So it didn't bother me, but I could see that on the big screen. Maybe it's a little bit more apparent that it isn't that at all.
Well, I think I just noticed. I noticed things. I noticed when buildings weren't real buildings,
right?
And I noticed like when trees weren't real trees. I sort of noticed those kind of things, and maybe that has to do with a lot of the limitation because this is more of an indie film, and that's fine.
That's true.
But then I'd rather watch the Upside Down and Stranger Things, but that's just me.
There's nothing wrong with that. All right, well, there you go. There's our review for Separation. It's out in theaters now. Check it out if you like. We would love to hear from you. If you do, let us know in the comments down below, and check out some of our other reviews. Some of them are going to come up here next. Dave, Christopher, thank you for joining me. This was so much fun.
Thank you, Doc.
Yeah, it's always fun, as always.
Let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.